Hey everybody, welcome back to Corey's Customs. How's it going? So back in the garage today we have our 1938 Ford Project. As you can see, I've made some progress here. So this video I'm going to do a little bit of an update, get everybody caught up on where I'm at here. I've been super busy. I got a bunch of stuff filmed. It just kind of got away from me there. I'm trying to figure out a spot to pick up and start this video, since I kind of put off doing some editing and some stuff for a while. So what I got, as you can see, I've done some work here. Got the brake booster master assembly mounted. Got our start of our framework put in. So let me explain what we got here. So we started out by obviously we took the 38 truck apart. I'm not going to get into a lot of that. Really only took me a couple hours to get this thing torn down. There wasn't much to it. Pretty old, simple truck. So we're going to skip right to once the cab was off, cab sitting on the cradle. Basically, I just cut the firewall right across the seam here. Cut it across. You can see where the issue is there from the battery box. Cut it down the sides here, took all that out. Then we got the cab sitting up here on the cradle. Once it was sitting on the cradle, first thing I had to do, I had to take a little trim right here, and I'm gonna have to do it again because I've put in some of my floor framing, which we'll get into later. So you can see where I cut the bottom of the cab here because of obvious interference issues, which now this bar's in, I have them back to interference issues. So you can see here, I basically just sawzalled that out of the way. That way it quit interfering with the drive shaft. I have to cut that other piece out of there, but I'll get to that later. So that was the first thing. I just made a quick trim there. You can see here on the cab mounts, you can see the line here where they used to be. I got my mount just kind of hanging out there so I don't lose it. So you can see here where that was where the edge of it was, and that's where the top of it used to be. You can see where I made some marks cutting. So that's as far as I moved the mount. It looks like it sticks out here, but that mount's actually quite big, and it puts the center of the bolt hole just where I want it. So I had to draw a line here with my calipers. I cut off pretty square, so all I did was take my digital calipers, mark open them a half an inch, and use my calipers here to scribe a line. And then I cut in ½ inch and move this back in a ½ an inch, and that's all it took. Of course, everything's just tacked in case we run into any issues. Bottom of my mount here, I just have it hanging there. So this hole actually, believe it or not, is going to relocate the parking brake. Well, this is the original location for the parking brake cable, but moving it forward, I'm actually going to reuse part of the parking brake and make the original parking brake work. But again, we'll get to that part later. So as you can see, all I had to do here was I just score a little line, take a ½ inch of material off, and those were ready to be tacked in place, no problem. Then the next thing on the agenda was where I cut this firewall, and the firewall was recessed back about this far. You can see in the video it was recessed back a little way, so I just cut it off. Well, it was spot welded here, and I wanted to get rid of that piece on the inside, the remnants of the firewall. So I drilled out all these spot welds, and then I was able to peel the metal off the inside. So started out by drilling all the holes, drilled all the spot welds out, did on both sides, got that metal out of there. Also, I did a little hammer and dolly work to this just to straighten it out and make it a little bit more clean and straight up and down. Took the buzz pad, cleaned all this off, Did that on both sides. Same thing, both sides. Drilled out all the spot welds. These other holes that I've drilled here, I drilled here so I can weld to that framework I have. So I went through and just drilled a bunch of holes here. That way I have an area to weld my framework in. Again, it's a buzz pad, cleaned all this up. Now this upper piece here, you can see I got a bar in here also. So the bar here, basically I'm just using it to support the firewall. So again, I made a bunch of holes here and welded that piece all in. So that was all the prep work. Cut the firewall out, clean all the paint off of here so we can weld nice, drill all the holes, take out this inner piece here, get all that extra metal out of the way. So once we got that part, the next thing I did was took me an outside measurement, overall outside from one side to the other. Cut these uprights out of 1/2 inch square tubing. And then using my outside measurement here, took 1 inch off, cut my piece for the top. And then once I knew I had my width correct, then I cut my bottom piece and I built this piece. I built this piece on the welding table. Put these uprights here in the center. These will be used later. That one I just centered over there. I don't have one here. I'm probably going to, well actually I know I got to add another one here because I have throttle pedal and throttle assembly and stuff like that I need to mount here. So then once I had the framework built, this is my basic frame. Once I had that framed up and all put together, I took this piece of 3/16 steel here. This is the hole that's going to be used for the steering column. And I also did the pattern for the brake booster master. Also mounts pedal assembly. This will all be tied in to the rest of the dash at a later time, partially with the steering column and whatnot, but we'll get to that at a later date also. So once my pedal assembly was mounted, my framework is all done. You can see here we got this upper piece welded in there. We start moving on to the floors, and again we just had more cleanup, but we'll get into the floors later. So yeah, as far as my firewall goes, the firewall is mostly complete. I need to work on the steering column next and the rest of the floor. I had to build in the floor and the tranny tunnel. So that'll be the next video. We'll be getting into making templates of the floor, doing that stuff, but we'll wait for another video for that. Well, thanks for watching, and hopefully we'll get another video out here pretty soon. Been steadily busy, so we'll get everybody caught up here pretty soon.